You know, in the business world, change is pretty much the only thing you can count on. New tech, new competition, it just never stops. But here's the thing. If everybody knows change is a constant, why are we so bad at it? Let's just start with one really surprising number. 70%. Just let that sink in for a second. It's a huge number, and it points to a massive breakdown that's happening inside most organizations today. Yep, that's the estimated failure rate for major corporate change projects. I mean, think about that. Companies are pouring millions, sometimes billions, into new strategies and technologies, and 7 out of 10 times, they just don't get the results they wanted. So the big question isn't if you need to change, it's why is it so incredibly hard to get it right? Okay, so part of the answer is that we need to understand that change isn't some one-time event anymore. It's more like a constant, relentless wave that just keeps coming. And what's driving this wave? Well, it's a perfect storm, really. You've got technological breakthroughs that make yesterday's cutting-edge tools feel ancient. You've got insane competitive pressure pushing everyone to innovate faster and faster. On top of that, our customers expect more, and they want it now. And, as we've all seen firsthand, huge global disruptions can literally force a massive shift overnight. In this kind of environment, adaptation, it's not optional. It's about survival. So, with all this pressure to adapt, you'd think we'd be getting better at it, right? But that brings us right back to our core problem, that staggering 70% failure rate. This really just shines a spotlight on the massive gap between what companies hope to achieve and what's actually happening on the ground. They invest all this time, all this money, but as research shows, most of these huge, high-stakes projects just fall flat. So what's the missing piece of the puzzle? Now, what's really fascinating here is where we usually point the finger. We think, oh, maybe the new software had bugs, or, well, we should have thrown more money at it. But that's not it. Nope. The real reason is something way more fundamental. The real reason is people. It all comes down to the human element. It is the single most critical factor in whether a change succeeds or fails. And ironically, it's the one thing we almost always overlook. We get totally mesmerized by the shiny new technology, right? We focus on the detailed budgets, the perfectly mapped out processes. But what truly decides the outcome is how our people react to it. It's whether the company culture can actually absorb the change. It's how well we communicate the journey. It's a complete mindset shift from being tech first to people first. So why do people resist? It's not because they're being difficult, it's just human nature. I mean, think about it. People are worried about losing their job, or maybe their status, or even just their comfortable routines. They might not trust the reasons behind the change, especially if other big projects have failed in the past. And sometimes, you know what? They're just plain exhausted. And that exhaustion leads to a very real, very modern problem: change fatigue. It's that feeling of being completely tapped out from one next big thing after another. Some studies show that nearly half of all employees feel this way. And when people are that burned out, even a small positive change can feel like this huge, impossible burden. So if the problem is people, the solution has to be about culture. We can't just manage change on a project-by-project basis anymore. We have to build an organization that is, at its core, adaptable and ready for what's next. You want a great example of this? Look at Microsoft. Under Satya Nadella, they made a very deliberate shift. They moved away from what they called a know-it-all culture, where people were expected to have all the answers, to a learn-it-all culture, one that really prized curiosity and growth. That single cultural pivot was absolutely key in reigniting their innovation engine. So how do you actually build a culture like that? It's not magic. It really rests on 4 key pillars. First, it starts with a real commitment to continuous learning. But for that to work, you need psychological safety, where people feel safe enough to speak up, to ask questions, and even to fail without getting blamed. That safety is what unlocks real innovation and an openness to new ideas. And finally, all of this has to be anchored in a strong shared purpose, so everyone gets the why behind what you're doing. Okay, building a culture is the long game, for sure. But what can you do, like right now? Let's break down a practical playbook you can use to lead your next change initiative to success. First things first, you have to articulate a clear and compelling vision. Everyone, and I mean everyone, needs to understand where you're going and, even more importantly, why it matters. This vision is your North Star. It's what keeps everyone aligned when things inevitably get tough. Next, you need to communicate obsessively. And I'm not kidding, you cannot over-communicate during period of change. Use every channel you have. Emails, town halls, one-on-ones. Be super transparent about what's going well and what's not. And please, create real ways for people to give feedback. This has to be a two-way street. Third, leaders have to lead by example. This is huge. If you're rolling out a new system, the execs need to be the very first ones using it and using it visibly. Your team is always watching. If they see you're committed and enthusiastic, it gives them a reason to be too. And listen, don't just throw people into the deep end and expect them to swim. Invest in giving them the skills and the resources they need to actually succeed. Good training and easy-to-access support, that stuff reduces anxiety and shows your people that you're invested in them, not just in the project's bottom line. And finally, reinforce success. You have to celebrate the small wins along the way. Publicly recognize the people and the teams who are really embracing the new way of doing things. This builds momentum and morale, and it's how you turn skeptics into your biggest supporters. And all of this brings us to what might be the most powerful idea here. Change isn't a one-time sprint, it's more like a workout. Every single time your organization successfully adapts to something new, you're building its change muscle. You're making it stronger, more confident, and way more resilient for whatever challenge comes next. So, you see, overcoming that 70% failure rate isn't about finding some perfect project plan. It's about building an organization that actually thrives on change itself. And that leaves us with one final, really crucial question to think about. How strong is your organization's change muscle?